I am the CSA president here at Newman, and I also had the privilege to co-lead a trip to Jamaica. That was a mission trip. And we just got back last Sunday, so still kind of on cloud nine from that. And a lot of people that went on the trip are here tonight, so anyway, so our series that we're going to start for this semester, it's called it's a little okay, it's fine. Anyway, our series for the semester is called The Journey, and I think it's kind of fitting that we're doing it, and it's starting in January because every new year people have all these resolutions, and it's kind of like starting fresh. It's a fresh start. This semester is a fresh start. Your grades from last semester don't matter anymore. And with the new year, people have new resolutions, whether it be eat healthier, work out more, maybe improve relationships with family, read more books, I don't know, what have you. But people always have resolutions at the beginning of the year that they want to implement in their life because they have this vision of what they want to be by the end of the year. And so I've kind of been reflecting and thinking about my journey and what my 2014 will look like. And my life's going to have a ton of changes this year. I'm graduating in May. I'm hopefully going to have a job, and that job might mean I go to a different city. And my little brother, he's going to go off to college, so he's becoming an adult now. It's kind of weird for me. Just lots of changes, and I've just been kind of reflecting on how those impacted my journey and how it's going to impact my life down the road. And I feel like when we think about our life journey, we kind of think about whether it be maybe our career plan, or maybe we're thinking about relationships we have. I feel I remember talking to my grandpa about how he met my grandmother over break, and he talked about the man he was before then and kind of what led to him being the man that my grandma married. So, Brendan Gilliam's here. Say hi to Brendan. He's walking in late, so embarrassed. But I think about just kind of the journey it took to get to that point. But a lot of times when we think about our journey, we don't really, I feel like, at least I don't, think about my journey and my relationship with God and kind of how that impacts it. So with the new semester starting, I think it's a great opportunity for all of us to kind of refocus on what our goals are. So before I get more into that, I kind of want to talk a little bit about this trip I took to Jamaica. So we went down to Jamaica. We went to this village called Harmons. It's towards the south center part of the island. And while we were down there, we built 3 houses. Some of us had the opportunity to go to the school there and help out there. We laid a foundation for 2 houses that were built this week, or are being built this week, and just helped out the community as best we could. One thing that we did that really has a big impact, I think, on the people that go on the trip is we went to an infirmary. That's kind of what I wanted to talk about a little bit tonight. I'm going to put up those pictures. The infirmary in Jamaica, for those of you that don't know what it is, it's essentially a poorhouse. The people that live there basically have been dropped off there either by their family because they can't take care of them or don't want to take care of them anymore, or maybe the government has sent them there. But basically they've been dropped off there and left to die. It kind of sits on this big hill that's kind of surrounded by its cemetery. So the atmosphere there, just knowing that it's not the best place or the happiest place, you would think. And the people that are there, they either have a mental disability, a physical disability, or both. And they kind of vary in the range of severity with these disabilities. So there's a few people though, if you go there, you'll just meet them and be like, why are you here? You don't really seem like you need to be in an infirmary because they just, in America, they probably would not have to be institutionalized like these people have. And I remember my first time, this is my second year going to Jamaica. My first year, when I went there, just the level of poverty and the level of sickness I saw there was just shocking to me. And it really kind of rocked my world a little bit. And the place just doesn't get a lot of visitors. So when our group went there, it was one of the happiest afternoons they have the entire year. And it's a very joyful place for the hour and a half we're there that afternoon. But this year, I decided to go back for a full day the next day after our group went there. And I kind of got a better sense of what the atmosphere is like day to day in this infirmary. And it's a mentally exhausting place to be in. It's kind of the best way I could describe it. It seems like there's not a lot of love there at first glance. Even like the nurses and the staff that work there, most of them are not very kind to the patients there. And they just, I kind of like wish it wasn't that way, but to an extent I can empathize with them just because it's such a mentally draining experience to be there. But what makes the infirmary such an impactful place for people that go there and visit is that you'll find some people there with like the most incredible faith. And it really inspires you. And there's just some people there that are incredible lights for Christ there. And that's kind of like, I think, and it's one of the hardest places I can imagine being a Christian, maintaining your faith. But like I said, you'll just meet some of the people with the strongest faith that I've ever met in my life. And I want to talk about two in particular that I got real close with this year. The first one, I call her Miss Mary. That's the one at the top that I'm reading the Bible with. But Mary, as you can kind of see in that picture, she doesn't have a lot of mobility. And she rarely leaves her bed, and if she does have to leave her bed, it's with assistance. And but what she lacks in mobility and like physical ability, basically, she makes up for in faith. Like she is just one of the most incredible, little sassy sometimes, at least to me. And just her faith was amazing. Like I talked to her a little bit the afternoon that we first went there, and I knew I wanted to talk to her more the next day. But anyway, so I walked in that Thursday morning, and I asked her how her day was going, which was a stupid question. It was morning, like no one knows how their day is going at 9 a.m. in the morning. But she said it was a good day because God has blessed me with you in it. And I was like, oh, shucks. Like, yeah, I was like, that's really nice. And so I just sat down and we talked, and we did a lot of things. I basically sat there for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, and we talked about faith, kind of living there. We sang worship songs. I sang Amazing Grace like 3 or 4 times there. It's her favorite song. And we read Psalms. Like she just kept like giving me Psalms and me to read to her. I kind of wanted to like go to other verses that I liked, but she was very persistent with the Psalms. That's all right. And then we prayed together. And just in our conversation though, it was amazing to me because it's like a minute like rarely went by where she didn't say the phrase, I'm blessed. And I just like, I look at her and I look how happy she was. And she acknowledged that it can be tough living where she was at. But just like I just looked at her and I'm just like, man, I don't get it. How can she be so positive? How can she have this great faith? Because I've been here for a morning and I'm just mentally exhausted and I'm ready to go home. And it was hard for me. And anyway, so lunchtime hit and I left, and I made sure I said goodbye to her before I left. But she was just such a light to me that day. It was really amazing. And before I left, actually, I remember Maggie. She was here somewhere. She went and said goodbye to her before I did, and she's like, go, make sure you say goodbye to Andrew for me. So I had to, of course, go back, and like the nurses were trying to mop up that room. They're like, don't step on the floor, and I'm like, no, I'm going to go say goodbye to Miss Mary. You're not going to tell me what to do. And I said goodbye to her, and I told her, I'm like, I'll see you later, Miss Mary. And she's like, bless you, I love you. And I said, I love you back, and it was just like the warmest feeling I've had in a long time. And she just had that. She just has a special ability for those that talk to her to make you feel special. Another guy I want to talk to, that's Stephen in the bottom picture. And Stephen's just a really special guy. Everybody that goes to the infirmary meets Stephen, I feel like. He's like the mayor of the infirmary. He's pretty young, as you can kind of see in that picture. He has a mental disability of some sort. I don't know what it is. I'm not going to bother trying to guess. But it just, like when I first met him, I'm just kind of shocked that he was there. It felt like he didn't belong just because, even though he has a bit of a mental disability, it didn't seem like it was enough that he had to stay there. And I could definitely see him like being an American functioning well. But anyway, so Steve and I met him my first year in Jamaica, And then when we went back for the first time that first afternoon, I saw him, and his eyes got big, like he remembered me, which like made me feel good. And he gave me a big hug, and he's like, "You have to see my boombox." And he has acquired a boombox, and he wanted me to listen to CDs with him. I didn't get to that afternoon, but I made sure I'd make time for it the next day. But anyway, Steven's he's a great guy. Like he loves he helps the nurses out a lot with like feeding some of the residents there. And I think kind of the vibe I got just from observing is that they prefer it when he works with them as opposed to the nurses, just because he's so friendly and so loving when he does it. He's always, and he loves to sing too. Like he just would come around, like when we do worship at the infirmary, he would join along and sing with us. He wasn't that great at singing, but you could think he just was so passionate about what he was doing. It didn't matter. Anyway, that Thursday, it was about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and I was just kind of like done. Like I was mentally checked out. I'm just like, all right, Steven, it's time to go listen to your boombox. And so he kind of shows me, we would listen to the radio a little bit. I find a song I like. It's not a worship song. And I was like, "Oh, Steven, I like this song. What do you think?" He's like, "Nope." And he pressed skip until we got to a worship song on the radio, which I don't think we found. So he popped in a CD, and we just kind of sat there a little bit and listened to one of his worship CDs for a little bit. And he would sing along, and we were flipping through my Bible, and he would point to some verses that he wanted me to read. We do that. And then I remember the song "Better Is One Day" came on. We sing it a lot here, and our team sang it down in Jamaica. And Steven like just kind of stopped what he was doing and closed his eyes and just started singing, like with everything he had. And I tried to sing along with him, but I was just kind of in awe of what's like watching him, just seeing like this glow of holiness, like exuding from him. And his eyes were closed, and he just looked like the happiest guy on earth. And I was just like, man, I don't get it. Like how, like this place, it's like so. It feels like there's not much love here, and like yet he is as happy as could be. And like I keep thinking, like as it relates to like my journey, I think like, man, these people, like their journey's kind of ended. They're in their final place before they die. And I'm like, man, like I don't know if I can handle this. Like I'm like, I'm excited. Like I have new challenges, new adventures ahead of me in life, and I just look at these people and I'm like, man, this is it. And this is like that'd be a hard pill for me to swallow. And then like when he was singing that song, it just kind of hit me. Like, the journey for Miss Mary, the journey for Stephen, it had nothing to do with career plan. It had nothing to do with like how many friends they had outside of the infirmary. It had nothing to do with the possessions they had, even though Stephen loved his boombox. The journey for them is just one that it's the journey to heaven that matters to them, and it's a journey that God is with them all the time during. And as long as they have God with them, and as long as they're on that track to heaven, like that's all they need. And I think about it, like these people in the infirmary, they've had basically everything taken away from them. A lot of freedoms, a lot of their possessions that they had any before that. But for a lot of them, it didn't matter because they have their relationship with God. And that just like it was just like a 2x4 to the face for what I needed at the time. Because I'm so stressed out about what's going to happen in May when I graduate. I don't know where I'm going to be. But it doesn't matter, really. It matters, but not that much. And like, it clicked for me. Like, if there's one thing that people cannot take away from me in my life, and that's my relationship with God and my faith. And if that's the thing that can't be taken away, why don't I spend more time trying to protect that? Why don't I spend more time trying to develop that? And there's a line in the song that he was playing, "Better Is One Day." It says, "For here my heart is satisfied within your presence. I sing beneath the shadow of your wings." And if we do one thing the rest of our lives, it's praying, it's kind of the same thing. If we do one thing the rest of our lives, it needs to be worshiping and having a relationship in prayer with God. Like if we do that, like the rest will take care of itself. I kind of found out. Like this whole trip, like leading it just taught me to trust God on levels that I never thought I could. Although it's hard for them to live the infirmary, it was really discouraging for me to see it. Their joy and happiness was more dependent on their relationship with God, and that was the thing I learned the most, I think, from the trip this year. So my challenge, I guess, for everyone here is for tonight and the rest of the semester is to delight in our journey, and make sure that it's a journey that leads to Christ, that leads to heaven. Tonight, I know a lot of people are here for the first time, so we don't usually have all this. I wish we did more because I like candles and the ambiance or whatever, but we're going to do adoration. And as Catholics, we believe like God is present in the Eucharist, which we'll place there. If you're not really familiar with that, don't worry about it. Tonight, above all else, it's a night dedicated to prayer, a night dedicated to worship, and a night dedicated to meditation. And I just challenge you to think about your journey and your walk with Christ. Don't feel like you need to pray a certain way. If you want to kneel. You don't have to. The ground's hard. We have rugs if you want to kneel and not kill your knees. But if you want to sit, that's great too. Stephen, when he was praying, I've never seen someone like as holy as he was at that moment. He was just sitting and closing his eyes and praying. So it can be something as simple as that, standing, whatever. Do what you have to do so that you can connect with God tonight. We're going to get started with a song. So I challenge you to make this night about worshiping God. We figured that's kind of the best thing we can do to start off the semester.